Beautiful. 3,280 square feet of land where soil, water, and death meet. No corner not inhabited, no house not lived in, nowhere not dangerous. It's almost peaceful.
Oh shit, from our right-hand side.
Almost.
Oh, right there in the back. Oh, incendiary, yeah. Oh my god, it went right by my head.
Oh my god, it's like a fucking...
Come on!
Give me that moment. I'm burning.
Welcome to the bayou, good hunter. 100 square meters of swamp home to all sorts of horrors that will lead to an early, watery grave. The ground encrusted with the blood of countless hunters just like you. The air you breathe lined with gunpowder, smokeless and black. The buildings, a makeshift battleground suited more for shootouts than they are for hardy shelter. The monsters, a reflection of what can and will happen to you if you fail to keep your wits about yourself. And yet deep within this hellhole lies a treasure as tantalizing as it is dangerous. It is here where you will mark your legacy. It is here where you will make your fortune. And what good is fortune when not shared amongst comrades? The hunting grounds are cruel and treacherous, but it is not a trial that you have to endure alone. You and up to 2 other players will vie for the prize of hunting down otherworldly beasts, deployed in one of 3 maps hosting 12 hunters all gunning for the same thing. Outfit yourself appropriately and sneak, stab, and shoot your way through dangerous territory on the trail of even more dangerous game. Be lucky or quick and you'll bear the honor of killing the prized creature yourself. But the more prudent hunter may ask themselves, why bother with the hassle at all? This gig is hard enough as it is, why make it any more difficult? Besides, depending on who you ask, there are far more interesting things to set your sights on out in the bayou. Whether you're the first one there or you're late to the party, the death of the quarry does not mean the end of the hunt. All it indicates is a change in seasons. Whatever hunters remain will now be hunting down the owner of the bounty.
Yeah. Right there.
Damn it! He is right behind this thing.
Fight, flee, steal, do whatever it takes to leave with the reward and your life.
Oh, they're far. We got 240. One, but he's far. 240. He's not gonna get close yet.
Damn, dude. Easy game, boy.
With hopefully your comrades in tow, but their successful
So clear.
extraction is as ever an optional objective.
We lost a man. But it's okay, he shall be remembered.
Collect on your ill-gotten gains and do it all over again. In an ideal world, maybe. In truth, it's going to look a lot more like this.
Watch your left, he's coming in.
Right
left,
in front of me!
he's coming in.
Oh, shotgun! Shotgun.
Get used to this screen and this sound. It's going to be a good long while before you'll be the one hearing it as opposed to uttering it. But if you can overcome this hurdle, if you can find the strength within yourself to make this place your home, you will take part in one of the more unique multiplayer PvPvE experiences out on the market today. Welcomed into a niche but tight-knit community that is as varied and dynamic as the people that inhabit the land this game is based off of. Complete with its own language, history, humor, and obsession with hats. Seriously, I haven't seen a community this obsessed with hats since Team Fortress 2. Oh, TF2. Simpler times.
I'm not taking it out.
But enough about the past. Instead, let's focus on the past. Alright, so in an alternate universe, the world as we knew it was different. Because it was in the past. Sometime during the 19th century, pockets of a disease thought to be a flu began to emerge all around North America. The earliest documented incident occurred in 1858 when a prospector by the name of Ernest Spleger uncovered a geode lined with crystals containing a fluid called the water of crystallization. In a moment of unfathomable brilliance, Splegger would drink this fluid as a jesting remark. He died shortly thereafter. Within hours, his body was petrified solid. Though not known at the time, this water could be traced back to an otherworldly being known as the Sculptor, a malevolent entity who would go on to become the CEO of Umbrella Pharmaceuticals or something. So, like, a lot of the information we have on the Louisiana incident is incomplete. With the information we've been given, we can really only infer how it all resolved in the end. Games developed in the Eastern Hemisphere refuse to have their narratives told in a linear fashion. Dark Souls, Silent Hill, Dark Souls 2, Stalker, Dark Souls 3, Nier, Bloodborne. On Showdown is no different. No surprise there, given that Crytek is a German-based game company. Also, a lot of these lore bits are locked behind weapon masteries, and I refuse to use anything that isn't the Spark Sniper and Uppercut.
Oh, she came with 350s. Ugh.
Is it red? It sounds red.
It's red, it's red, it's red.
Red AF, red AF, where they at, where they at, where they at? Fuck.
Got one.
Oh, nice. Okay,
I'm en route.
over here.
On that mark.
Over here. Yeah.
I do recommend diving into them when you have the time. There are a lot of interesting events that occur parallel to the incident of 1895 that aren't going to be covered here. Anyway, back to the progenitor of Umbrella Pharmaceuticals. Over time, these isolated incidents became more and more frequent across the southern portion of the United States. With increased frequency came increased ferocity. What was originally perceived to be a strain of the flu is now thought to be a form of rabies. But the truth is far more sinister. It's not entirely magical, and it's not entirely natural. But what it is for certain is extraplanar. A dark power masquerading as an epidemic. An invasive entity that somehow slithered its way into this world, content with lying in wait as its influence slowly snuffs out the life that is there, only to replace it with an insidious caricature of its own design. But to mimic nature is to also be subject to its influence, and nature abhors a monopoly. At some other point in time during the 19th century, a small girl with dirty white blonde hair sat in the dirt playing with a deck of cards. On the nearby porch, a half-dozen adults sat around the rocking chair. From the ground behind the girl, she pulled a grisly machete and walked pointedly towards the porch. The adults hushed when they noticed her approach. In this world, they would find no more reason to speak as they fell beneath the swift motion of her arm. The girl was called Lynch. Lynch would be the universe's response to the Sculptor's presence in this world. For what better way to fight off an invasive species than with another invasive species? Come on, there's no possible way this could backfire. Strange, dangerous, and merciless, Lynch was also not of this world. Having slipped through between realms into this one, she has tracked the Sculptor from parts unknown in an effort to destroy it. Adept with both armaments and magic, she proved to be more than capable of dismantling her prey. But could she really be trusted? It's apparent that she doesn't have any qualms with killing others to further her own goals, especially innocent bystanders. And what happens if she is successful from banishing the Sculptor from this world? Are we just replacing one evil for another? And for that matter, what does the Sculptor have to gain in spreading its influence in the way that it does? To what nebulous goal do either seek to accomplish in besting the other? Whatever the reason may be, it does not bode well for anyone caught up in either's path. These two dark forces are marching toward each other, and someone must stand in the middle. Someone must stem the tide. The legacy of humanity has always been to master its environment. We have brought order out of chaos, brought sense where there is none, and brought light to darkness. Shone light on those terrible things that would hide themselves from us. But to know is to be known. With no dark corner to retreat to and the visage of our nightmares revealed, who will be the one to chase the boogeyman away? Enter the American Hunters Association, or the AHA for short. A tightly knit society of hunters that has existed in various forms for many hundreds of years, yet its legacy is silence. Sworn to secrecy, we have little, if any, information at all about the past exploits of the AHA. But it is clear that it can and has fought back against this dark presence before. Poised, capable, and in no shortage of eager hunters, the AHA stands at the ready to defend humanity from any and all horrors that would besiege them. At least, that is the supposed impression advertised by Dr. Philip Huff Jones, the then director of the AHA. In truth, the association is more akin to a den of thieves than a bastion of humanity. Faceless men of industry stand at the top, greasing the wheels of progress with human blood, hoping to deepen their already fat purses. Broken, haggard, or insane men and women with nothing to lose come from every corner of the world in the hopes of hunting otherworldly game. Posses and gangs of all creeds and cultures roam the swamps, seeking to further their own nefarious goals. And in the midst of it all, lurking in the shadows, a woman outfitted in the rugged style of a gunslinger, her skin worn and weathered, her face crowned with a wide-brimmed hat covering a thick, white blonde braid. Lynch was lying in wait, biding her time, manipulating the association to her benefit, waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike at the sculptor. Perhaps the ideal iteration of the AHA did exist at some time. But as the game became more dangerous, the bounty more precious, and the hunters more crazed, conditions within the bayou deteriorated fast. The existence of a common enemy was not enough to dissuade the hunters from turning on each other. Friendly competition spurred onward by common purpose quickly turned into heated rivalries before devolving into outright hostilities. No, whatever good that existed within the AHA has long since died or abandoned the association. What exists now is a bloated corpse that spreads more death and destruction than it does stock. In an almost too perfect twist of irony, the AHA has become a reflection of what they were sworn to destroy. Every bounty collected restored by the sculptor. For every grunt killed, 2 more take its place. And for every hunter felled in the name of the AHA, a new monster is born, bearing the mark of the sculptor. What was supposed to be a battle for humanity's continued survival has exploded into an all-out war. A war with no clear ideology, no clear goal, and no clear end in sight. The only thing that can be assured is your inevitable end in the bayou. The gun you hold in your hands a close second. The allies to your left and right, a distant third. But whatever reason you find for yourself in the bayou, whether it's for prestige, power, a payout, or for a purpose grander than your own, there is one thing every hunter in the bayou can agree on. Firing upon your fellow man is really fucking fun. Before your first outing into the bayou, it'd be wise to familiarize yourself with the tools of the trade. It ain't much to cry home about, but you've got everything you need here to get started. You have a basic roster of hunters to recruit from, and a similarly basic arsenal of weapons to arm yourself with. Barring any legendary hunters you possess, your choice of recruits are limited to sparsely equipped fresh-faced ranchers. They are drawn to the hunt, allured by fortune and otherworldly thrills. Their freshly pressed and conspicuous clothing are a clear sign of their recent enlistment to the AHA. But you don't enter a place like this and expect to come out the same. Ranchers become proper hunters, adorning themselves in more elaborate clothing, shielding them from the elements. Hardened veterans emerge from the darkness, cloaked in black, bearing scars dealt by both man and monster. Their slick aesthetic a clear status symbol affirming their mastery of the hunt. A clear warning to those who would dare point their firearms at them. And a stealthy advantage to leverage when hunting in the bayou. But for now you'll have to make do with the basics. Not really a problem. In the hands of a capable hunter, what you have available to you is more than enough to clear out the bayou of enemies and extract with the bounty. Once you've had a couple of successful hunts, or repeated failures, you'll unlock more of your bloodline. The persistent progression system that carries over from hunt to hunt. The higher your bloodline, the more of your arsenal you'll unlock. Guns, traits, tools, recruits, money, everything a budding hunter needs to find success out in the bayou. Some items and weapons are locked behind XP or usage requirements. Using more of anything will unlock new equipment that enhances certain aspects of the item or weapon in question. For example, the more you use the dynamite stick, the more dynamite variants you'll unlock. A straightforward upgrade in the form of a bigger bundle, resulting in bigger booms. The downside is that the added weight means you can't throw it nearly as far as lighter dynamite bundles. In the case of weapons, unlocks often come in the form of side grades, enhancing existing capabilities or adding a functionality the weapon did not previously have. Something like the Winfield Compact can be fitted with a silencer or a scope. Equipping a silencer renders the gun inaudible to all but its user, reducing the chances of being detected in the bayou. And it's like all good hunters say, the best hunter in the bayou is the one who spots the other first. However, all silenced weapons come with significantly reduced muzzle velocity and an intrusive iron sight, making it difficult, if not the very least awkward, to lead and land shots. This is especially true in the middle of a firefight when people are actively dodging.
Oh, I see him. I need help.
He's got dual uppercuts.
Oh fuck, I'm shot from the right.
A scoped variant helps even the playing field in long-range battles and assists in preliminary scouting when approaching an area. This comes with the caveat that the weapon spread unscoped is slightly wider and more sensitive to movement. In addition, you're now bogged down by an intrusive ADS animation when getting shots downrange. You're making yourself more effective at a distance, but hampering your combat capabilities in skirmishes at short range. Surprisingly, once you have access to everything, the vast majority of the weapons in the game are relatively balanced. Are balanced. Every weapon has its place and encourages a playstyle based on its effective engagement range. Shotguns are great for holding or clearing out compounds and taking short-range skirmishes. They say never bring a knife to a gunfight, but you'd be surprised how much mileage this tool can get you out in the bayou. Melee weapons are great for dealing with AI and swiftly dispatching boss enemies. Of course, this applies to other hunters as well if you catch one unprepared and unawares.
Nice. Fuck yeah.
Oh my god. What
Oh.
Sidearms are mainly used to shore up the weaknesses in your loadout or hone in on what you already excel at. Rifles inhabit a wide spectrum out in the bayou, utilizing almost every ammo type in the game. From long-range battles to short-range shootouts, they can do it all and they will be the weapon you encounter the most in the bayou. But even more common than that are the medicines every hunter carries on their person. Your chances in the bayou are slim, but if you want to have any hope of coming out alive, then you're going to want to have some of these in your loadout. The first aid kit is an inexpensive and pedestrian item, but it can be the difference between a successful hunt or a disappointing death. With that said, some of the more daring hunters may forgo some survivability in favor of greater kill potential. They may choose to equip themselves instead with more dynamic or more subtler tools to dispatch their opponents. Explosives, traps, throwing knives, decoys, poisons, when used in its proper place and time, anything and everything can lead to a kill. However, the armaments you equip yourself with are only one part of the equation. The second part doesn't come in until after you've successfully extracted from a bounty hunt. If you survive, then on top of Bloodline XP, you'll gain Personal Hunter XP. When you get enough, you gain upgrade points which can be invested into mending your wounds, or, more importantly, invested into traits. Traits are purchasable skills that can improve your hunter in various ways. You can increase your survivability, empower your physical aptitude, sharpen your gunslinging. The possibilities are great and are only limited by the max level of your hunter and the upgrade points you find in the hunting grounds. You'll inevitably figure out your preferred playstyle and hunt, and traits can make your particular style more effective. You can tune yourself to become a jack of all trades, where you're competent in everything, but don't quite excel at anything. My posse are of a subtler and cautious breed, and they tend to outfit themselves to remain undetected in the bayou. I, on the other hand, am far more raucous and enjoy courting shootouts. I will outfit myself to survive skirmishes from long range and scraps from up close. My gang and I are like two opposing brain cells that try to compromise between the gameplay extremes in Hunt Showdown. Silence versus violence. You can imagine how well this pans out in our expeditions.
Fuck, hey.
But more on that later. However you decide to arm yourself, whether you're the newbie, the veteran, the try-hard, the swamp ninja, the shock trooper, the giga chad, whatever it may be, you've got everything you could possibly need as you roam the wetlands of Louisiana. The basic gameplay loop of a bounty hunt is as follows. After you've spawned on the edge of the map, you need to pick up the trail of your quarry in order to discover where in the bayou it is hiding. To do this, you need to locate at most 3 clues, dark imprints on reality that emerge when great evil has occurred nearby. When investigated, it fills the user's mind with invasive images of their target's actions and memories. Interacting with a clue will blot out the possible locations of the bounty's hiding spot. Clues are always found within the compounds of the hunting grounds and can be tracked through dark sight. Dark sight is when hunters cross their eyes really hard until they get a headache. The resulting pain and visual image allows them to perceive the otherworldly energy given off by their target. In dark sight, clues will appear as blue sparks, the intensity of which is based on proximity. The closer you are, the more intense the sparks appear, eventually materializing as a bright blue light when right on top of a clue. Once you've investigated 3 clues, the exact location of the target will be marked on your map. Make your way to the target and kill them. Prepare yourself as you come face to face with one of the 4 horrors that plague the bayou. Begin the banishment ritual that will expel the evil back to wherever it came from. You expel evil only to draw it upon yourself. Every remaining hunter within the grounds will immediately be alerted to your location once the ritual begins. I'd say it's a safe bet to be expecting company. Once the banishment ritual has finished, 2 bounty tokens will be left behind that can be tracked on the map or through dark sight. Grab the token and fight your way to one of the 3 extraction points on the map. Wait out the timer with your posse and bounty in hand, bing bang boom, you've completed one whole loop of a bounty hunt. Of course, things could get complicated along the way, but nearly every game of Hunt is going to pan out in this manner. Find the boss, kill the boss, banish the boss, and extract with the bounty in hand. How you choose to accomplish this, however, is entirely up to you. Like everything and everyone that plays Hunt Showdown, the 2 categories of gameplay lie on a spectrum that are antithetical to each other. The Swamp Ninja, or the Gunslinger. There are degrees of stealth as there are degrees of loudness, and every hunter will tend to favor one end of the spectrum over the other. Stealth is as it sounds, a quiet and measured approach that minimizes detection through careful evasion and silent disposal of obstacles in your path. You can't talk about Hunt Showdown without talking about sound. They are synonymous with each other. Sound is the greatest tool any hunter can leverage in the bayou. The sound design team made sure of it. Kudos to them. The sharp crunching of glass, the telltale snapping of a twig, the inhuman roars from a monster. Any sound you make in the hunting grounds is information another hunter could leverage against you if you aren't careful. It should go without saying that it behooves one to give away as little information to their opposition as possible, so it should come as no surprise that the impatient and the clumsy are punished harshly. From a distance, a single gunshot is all an experienced hunter needs to make an educated guess on your loadout, your position, your current status, your pathing, etc., etc., etc. If you're within the proximity of, say, the length of a compound, an alert hunter with a good pair of headphones will be able to hear you attempting to silently kill enemies. It'll be faint, but it is there.
Find an axe.
There are people here.
Oh,
Copy.
that was quick. Find an axe.
There are people here. The instinct to dispatch monsters with subtler methods isn't wrong. Even the loudest cowboy will brandish their knife from time to time. Quietly clearing out the flora in the fauna is a common tactic. You're just not guaranteed you'll be able to do it safely. You can outfit yourself to ensure absolute silence, but 0 decibels doesn't equate to 0 evidence. There is nothing more concerning and more telling in the hunting grounds than a vacant compound or a field clear of zombies. The bayou is home to all sorts of dangerous monsters. Unique, plentiful, and dangerous creatures. If you aren't having to circumvent or deal with any as you approach an area, alarm bells should be going off in your head. While on the topic of sound, you can't talk about sound in Hunt Showdown without referencing the endless amount of noise traps in this game. Chicken coops, caged dogs, dying horses, the fucking crows! They are the biggest detriment to approaching your objectives undetected, and they are almost always placed in an inconvenient location. You can do your best to mitigate their effect, but it is still something people close enough can hear if they're listening. Circumventing the trap entirely is the only way to keep things peaceful, but it's not always practical, and it's not always safe. Erasing your presence is possible. It's difficult, but doable. It demands patience and discipline. A rare thing in the bayou, for being honest. But adhering to the tenets of stealth will reward you more often than not. There is no question that you increase your chances of survival by avoiding conflict. There is the added bonus that for every monster you avoid and every noise trap you leave untriggered is now an asset for you to utilize. If by some chance an enemy team is following you, you'll be able to hear them coming and set up an ambush. You do it right, the fight's over before it even begins. But these advantages come at a cost. Barring a stroke of luck, someone else will almost always beat you to the target and begin the banishment ritual before you. This gives them ample time to set up their defenses and prepare the compound so the siege is in their favor. I didn't mention it before, but having access to the bounty also imbues a hunter's dark sight with its power. For 5 seconds, a hunter holding the bounty is able to detect the presence of other hunters within 150 meters, appearing as orange blotches betraying their position. So for 10 seconds, because there are 2 bounty tokens, stealth is significantly less effective. Sometimes you'll be so far from the fight that the bounty-holding team could book it to the nearest extraction point, denying you any opportunity of contesting the bounty. There is no reward without risk in the bayou. Say you are able to engage anyway. Most of the silenced weapons in the game aren't really suited for prolonged firefights. The merits of stealth is to either end a fight before it starts or strike in a way that nets you an advantage you can constantly exploit. When a fight breaks out on neutral footing, you're already at a disadvantage by virtue of inferior weaponry. That's not to say you can't overcome this gap through skill, but it is something worth mentioning. And it only really applies to individuals that are insistent on a full stealth loadout. In the rare event that you are discovered, at best, a fight breaks out with you and your squad on the back foot. At worst, you've already lost. Slow movement is great for avoiding detection, but it makes you a really easy target for the sharper hunters out there. This final point isn't really a disadvantage per se, it has more to do with perception, appropriately enough. Swamp ninjas aren't really welcome here in the AHA. There is a negative association in this community when it comes to our quieter cowboys. Some may find it dishonorable, cheap, unfair, or some other word to help them process their frustrations. But that is the encapsulation of stealth. When applied properly, it leaves your opponents dumbstruck trying to wrap their head around who, what, and where they got hit from. Their mouths slightly agape as they're still trying to process what went wrong while loading into the next game. Now, when it comes to the other end of the spectrum, you've got gunslingers tearing up the hunting grounds something fierce. The first assumption about loud gameplay tends to conjure images of clumsy and impatient hunters, and that's not necessarily true.
I want to know if this poisons my friends. Come here.
Poison me, baby! Oh, it does!
That's also not necessarily untrue, but yes, flat-footed hunters may find themselves caught out often.
Hold on.
On the roof? Okay.
Here we go.
But loud doesn't have to equate to clumsy. When played optimally, loud is efficient. You give up any pretense of anonymity for efficiency.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Playing loud optimally is characterized by efficient pathing and efficient compound clearing as you make your way to the bounty. You're literally cutting a path clear of monsters through the bayou. Often, you'll be able to position yourself at the boss arena in time to safely contest the bounty. Or, better yet, kill and banish the boss uncontested. The time saved then translates into better prepared defenses for the inevitable siege coming your way. But with every bullet fired and every noise trap disturbed, you are sending out an invitation to the other players on the server. Most won't be able to grant your request, but as the game progresses, someone is bound to take you up on your offer.
Oh, right there, right there!
So, if you're going to play loud, then you better learn how to grab cover. Familiarize yourself with the buildings, the environment, and the map in its entirety. Lush, beautiful greenery makes for adequate makeshift cover in the event a fight breaks out. The compound and the building you so desperately cling to may not be as safe as you think. The rickety and dilapidated structures are not just there to serve the game's excellent art direction, it is another gameplay element. An element centered around information that dueling hunters try to leverage against one another in a firefight. The damaged and shoddy construction offer alternative sightlines when positioned correctly. The slits between flooring and walls betray the movements and intentions of enemy hunters when observed carefully.
I see him too. I got a shot on him.
Abandoned buildings decorated with trinkets of a time long past are now repurposed as temporary shelters.
Graham Ridge is under siege, under lockdown.
The items within now replaced with resources provided courtesy of the AHA or perhaps left behind by now dead hunters. A destroyed fort looms over the delta, its exploded walls a warning to those attempting to find safety within its remains. Places of worship where denizens gathered for both reverence and community now only host celebrations of the dead and the damned. 48 unique locations with their own personality and ambient narrative. 48 arenas to fight in. As much as I love this game, I admit that compared to the other members of the AHA, hunting is more of a casual hobby for me. Hunt Showdown is this close to being one of my favorite games that I never want to play. Currently, only Escape from Tarkov has that accolade. My point being that despite the finite amount of locations, my friends and I still don't know the map inside and out like other people do. To be fair, we're comparing our hundreds of hours to their thousands. To this day, we are still not intimately familiar with every compound in Hunt Showdown.
How did you get up there, you fuck?
On the side, over there.
Oh.
There are just straight up some compounds I have given up on. Despite there being only 3 maps, it will realistically take a long time before you've truly mastered any single compound, let alone the entirety of the map. This is especially true with the recent release of Desal. We're familiar with the locations, we can obviously recognize landmarks and key structures, but mastery is characterized by your ability to utilize the environment around you. It's characterized by timely rotations, smart sightlines, diligent angle clearing, etc., etc. We are absolutely not there yet. We still forget to check for traps from time to time.
I got a shotgun.
This is the recurring problem for playing loud. If you want to find success with this playstyle, then you need to know the map. It can become quite a task attempting to retain all of this information in your head. But whether you're trudging through the muck in Stillwater, enduring the heat at Lawson, or sightseeing in Desal, the more map knowledge you acquire, the more you can refine your aggression. The rewards, if you can get a handle on this aggressive play, are more than worth the trials you'll face. Going through the bayou at a fast pace means you'll be cutting down monsters left and right, eliminating them as variables should a fight occur. With stealth, you'll often circumvent your issues, but if for some reason you've been discovered, you'll usually be smack dab in the middle of monsters while people are taking pot shots at you. Fighting a war on 2 fronts is a surefire way to get yourself killed. At best, you're being forced to use resources you could have devoted to the firefight. This isn't much of a problem with loud play, because often you'll be clearing a path from location to location. So if a fight does occur, then you're already in a position to safely grab cover, or you can fall back without having to deal with monsters nibbling at your heels. Since you'll be fighting more, if you survive, you'll get more XP on average when you extract. You'll unlock your bloodline faster, and you'll be able to equip more traits in comparison to hunters avoiding conflict. This also applies to weapon and item unlocks. By putting yourself into situations you'll have to fight out of, you'll use your weapon of choice more and more, unlocking the variant and the custom ammo assigned to that weapon. But getting into more fights undoubtedly shortens your lifespan. There is something to gain from these deaths, however. Assuming the proper mindset, the more engagements you get into, the faster you'll learn how to fight your way out of the situation. You'll probably, well, very likely die more, but you'll learn at an accelerated rate. You'll be bleeding money and resources, but you'll get over your gear fear faster. There is a real possibility that you'll be put into a position where you don't have any money left, and you'll be forced to use the free recruit. But this is where Hunt Showdown clicks for a lot of people. Once they've begun to embrace death is when they're free of its hold over them. The most dangerous thing out in the bayou are not the monsters. The most dangerous thing out in the bayou is a hunter with nothing to lose. This next point isn't really an advantage per se, but it's worth mentioning. Playing loud means you get to use the guns! You get to use the guns! Crytek nailed it with the dark gothic 19th century technology. You can feel the weight of the gun behind every trigger pull, whether it's light or heavy. The reload animations are mesmerizing. It's the right amount of speed that allows you to appreciate the detail, which coincidentally is also just slow enough to keep you tense in the middle of a firefight.
There's nothing like the feeling of slamming a long silver bullet into a well-greased chamber.
Every gun has a particular sound and rhythm to it, giving the guns an auditory identity on top of their visual one. I mentioned before how this is a gameplay element, but the more important point is that there is an objective linear relationship with serotonin presence in the brain and amount of times a gun has been fired and reloaded. My favorite loadout is the Sparks Uppercut, the OG double-long loadout that dominated the bayou during them early access days. These guns are perfect in every way. Except performance, sadly. As Hunt has been updated over the years, the additions and gameplay balances resulted in the Sparks Uppercut falling victim to power creep. Don't get me wrong, they aren't weak in any sense of the word. There are just better options that accomplish the same thing. But I still hold them dear to my heart. It is arguably the most satisfying weapon combination to pull off. The reload animations, the gun feel, the legendary skins, the general look of both guns, the sound design I am literally addicted to. I can't get enough of how satisfying these guns sound when the trigger is pulled. Just listen. The only thing that makes it better is this. Oh, that never gets old. It's not the best loadout, but it's my favorite loadout, and the one I always default to when winning and extracting isn't a top priority for me. Most newcomers to the American Hunters Association tend to favor stealth on account of their apprehension to this strange world they now inhabit. Kudos to you if you're one of the brave few willing to brandish their firearms at the first sign of trouble. But the reality is, no matter what your tendencies are, you'll need to know how and when to apply both styles of play depending on the given situation. Stealth and aggression is a winning combination, but it's a difficult tactic that every hunter should strive to master. Though the sound given off by other hunters is commonly used to help avoid conflict, sound is a tool and it can be used defensively or aggressively. A perceptive hunter will use sound to circumvent danger. An aggressive hunter will use sound to take down enemies out of their line of sight.
Oh my god!
Some hunters have attuned themselves so well to the noises of the bayou that they've developed a sort of supernatural awareness. Of course, sound is only one part of the equation, knowledge of the map and the compound being the second. We've already gone over the benefits of extensive map knowledge when coupled with aggressive play. But to reiterate, you're constantly peeking every conceivable sightline to pressure your enemy. Map knowledge can also lead to smart and optimal angle clearing, reducing your reaction time and resulting in easy kills when coupled with smart crosshair placement and decent mechanics. When combined with stealth, the aggressive positioning can lead to atypical ambushes that will leave your opponent puzzled at how you got to where you were with nary a shred of evidence. The best hunters out in the bayou are decisive about what and when to apply a particular tactic. It will take some time, and you're definitely going to make some bad calls at first, but man, when it clicks! I have popped off in other games before, but there is something about Hunt Showdown that can't be replicated when it all falls into place. This is one of those easier said than done moments for sure, but it's only through repeated failures that people were able to hone this instinct. Through countless battles, extractions, and prestiges, the best have refined their gameplay out in the hunting grounds. Mainly through battles and extractions though, the prestiges are entirely optional. If you're a veteran hunter and you're watching this video, you may have noticed by now that I'm trying to refrain from recommending any particular concept, style, or weapon. This is intentional. Part of the fun is finding out what works for you as a player and what you naturally gravitate toward. But if there is one thing I had to recommend, it would be to never prestige. There's just no reason to. With every update and item addition, small or big, the reasons to prestige and Hunt Showdown continue to dwindle. I commend the dev team's attempt at mitigating the grind and offering some kind of incentive though. Originally, back in them early access days, all that would happen would be your account resetting back to when you first started. You also got a fancy cosmetic badge you got to show off to everyone. Now, upon prestiging, you're actually given several different rewards in the forms of currency, cosmetics, bloodline bonuses, etc, etc. That's honestly more than what other prestige systems tend to offer you. But interestingly enough, a lot of people still take issue with it in Hunt Showdown. The biggest complaint being that the effort to climb all over again and unlock all of your arsenal just isn't worth the effort invested. Especially since the most tangible rewards only come in the form of cosmetics and money. There is also clout. Some want their gamer score higher than others on their Xbox Live account, and there ain't nothing wrong with that either. I mean, I'm a Skinnerbox kind of guy. You give me a progression system or an arbitrary metric to assign value to, and I'm in there. But I have never felt the need to restart my journey all over again in the bayou. I did it once, and it's only because Crytek was going to reset everyone's bloodline right around the time Hunt came out of early access. In the years since then, I have never felt compelled to prestige. I don't really want to go through the hassle of unlocking everything. I mean, hell, I don't even have everything unlocked yet. One of the many issues of stubbornly clinging to a loadout. But if nothing prestige offers garners interest in any way, you are incentivized to stay at a maxed out bloodline. Every time you gain enough experience to level up, you are rewarded with money. It's not much, but we take those out here in the bayou. I feel like this topic comes up often because we have a smaller community compared to what's out there, so any complaint is going to be amplified. Big enough that we always have someone to play with, but small enough that every voice can be heard. And let me be clear, I don't want to dismiss the issue of prestige, it's a legitimate complaint. But offhandedly, the devs have mentioned that there weren't any plans at the moment to revamp the system. Prestige is a bit of an afterthought, and it's there for people who enjoy the grind and the feeling of progression. Okay, fine, understandable, and to a degree I'm with the devs on that. It's really a non-issue, and one of those things that you can safely ignore and not be affected by in the slightest. There are other features that the community has been clamoring for, like new weapons, hunter customization, engine optimization, maybe, just maybe, revamp the store system? I was so certain that the store was going to improve when Daysal dropped, but much to the community's surprise, it is still the same old store with some visual improvements here and there. This is another one of those issues that are honestly not that big of a deal. But since this is our staging ground and probably the screen we're going to be looking at the most alongside this one, then it'd be nice if the infrastructure was polished up a bit. It'd be nice if I could organize my inventory through drag and drops instead of 8 separate button clicks. It'd be nice if we had a separate function that saved our favorite loadouts. What we have is functional, but there can be a lot more done in the way of conveniences. I don't want to give the wrong idea here. The developers are listening. Many improvements that have turned Hunt into what we know now were originally suggestions by the community. So I have no doubt that some of the more popular requests will inevitably end up being realized at some point in time. There are just bigger issues that the devs have prioritized at the moment. So let's talk about those bigger issues! I've been avoiding it, joking about it, and hinting at it for long enough. It's time we address it. We have to address the elephant in the room. Or, to be more precise, we have to address the elephant gun in the room. The Dolch. Well, we were supposed to anyway, but Crytek went ahead and nerfed the damn thing. You've put me in a bit of a spot here, Dennis, because I had a whole section prepared for this video specifically about the Dolch. In fact, there were 2 things in Hunt that compelled me to make this video. One was the Dolch, and the other we will get to in a bit. Though it's a little irritating that I had to throw a significant portion of my script out the window, I will say that my enjoyment in Hunt ever since the Dolch nerf has more than made up for any inconveniences on my end. But before getting into the nerfs, we need to provide context as to why these nerfs are so effective. You can be captivated by Hunt's landscape, you can be mesmerized by its soundscape, but at the end of the day, the reason you're playing Hunt is because of the satisfying and deliberate gunplay. The core of which revolves around a significant cooldown period that occurs whenever you discharge your firearm. This cooldown period of the gunplay is what defines the gameplay. If I land a shot in any gun's effective range, it will always put a hunter 1 shot away from death. Almost everyone will take this as a sign to grab a cover, and if they've got a good position, then 9 times out of 10 they'll be able to duck behind something before I'm ready to fire again. But in grabbing cover, the enemy has conceded space that I can now leverage against them. I can push to shorten the distance, I can distance myself to leverage my gun's range and deny them theirs. I can maintain the distance I have and start looking for angles mitigating the effectiveness of their cover. I could use an explosive to further disrupt their plan by zoning them out. You want to find a way to heap on the pressure safely until they crack. Yes, there is the danger that they'll attack me when I'm trying to leverage my advantage, but they do so at great risk to themselves. With the exception of ambushes and sniper battles, this is how most skirmishes are going to play out in Hunt Showdown, and it's made possible because of the aforementioned cooldown period. So in this ecosystem of reload-ridden rifles, what happens when we introduce a German-based invasive species? Well, everything I just mentioned is thrown out the window. This thing makes bad hunters good, good hunters great, and great hunters unstoppable. It shoots as fast as the Bornheim, but hits like a Mosin, and is as accurate as one to boot. It can 2-tap consistently, It can wallbang through every penetrable material in-game. It can one-shot at most reasonable engagement ranges. You can rapid fire with little to no recoil or decrease in accuracy to account for. If all else fails, you can always hip fire spam as well due to the large ammo capacity. In a game where satisfying gunplay is based on varying degrees of lengthy gun cycles when discharging, you disrupt the foundation when a strong gun exists with no cooldown period. This was the core of the issue with quick swapping in the past. For those not in the know, quick swapping was a way for you to mitigate the after effects of shooting your weapon. When you shot with, say, a Sparks or Mosin, you're locked into the post-gunshot animation and have your movement somewhat slowed down. A clear punishment for missing your shots. You can't move as freely and you can't break out into a sprint. You can completely bypass this if you swap to your secondary, allowing you to quickly peek, shoot, and dive behind cover at little risk to yourself. On top of bypassing the movement penalty, you also negate the recoil of the previous shot when you swapped weapons. The only thing affecting your aim now is the swap animation, which isn't all that intrusive. These two things, in combination with the long ammo, allowed you to do stuff like this. Which was patched and balanced out of the game. Kind of. Sort of. The devs have since minimized the movement penalty after shooting, but have now increased the sway once you swap to your secondary weapon, so you can still kinda do it, but you can't do stuff like this anymore. And this is where it gets interesting, because the Dolch nerfs almost mimics the rhetoric of the quick swap nerf. In keeping with the narrative of Hunt Showdown, I decided to rigorously research how effective these nerfs are. It's not enough for me for the Dolch to have just suddenly disappeared. I need to see the logical through line as to why people aren't using it. So I began to force the Dolch in as many scenarios I could possibly get into. And I've discovered that I'm just not finding the level of success anymore that I did in the past. Which is good. If I'm not finding the success that I'm looking for when I'm forcing the issue, then the nerfs were successful in setting out what they wanted to accomplish. The sway and recoil nerf is just the right amount that it's almost imperceptible during a fight. It's almost a fluke how subtle the sway and recoil are because you feel like you should be able to compensate for it, but it's a lot harder than you'd assume. It almost surprises you how you're just barely missing shots at medium range. The damage nerf is the most straightforward. You're not going to be two-tapping people that often anymore.
Nice, nice, nice. 3 shots, though.
It can happen. But given how fights usually play out in Hunt Showdown, you're really only going to be reliably two-tapping people in the event of an ambush. But at that point, it's more on you to lose that engagement than for the enemy to win. The reload nerf is debilitating.
Why are you loading it so slow like that?
Because that's just how it works nowadays, sir.
Fuck.
It's doubling down on punishing you for missing your shots. Even the usage of the stripper clips doesn't really bypass the reload. It's surprisingly harmonious, and I have to applaud Crytek's balancing of the weapon. The sway, recoil, and damage nerfs are really forcing you to zero in on a target before taking your shot, unless they could be spammed down to death. But because you need to take more care into your shots, unless you have bullet grubber, you're almost always going to be in an awkward position when it comes to reloading your Dolch. Reloading during a fight is incredibly tedious and forces an extensive cooldown period even if you are only trying to load in 1 bullet, and these bullets don't come cheap. Expending one with every reload is really going to hurt in firefights, which feeds back into the damage nerf because you're more 3 to 5 tapping an individual as opposed to 2 tapping them. As I mentioned before, in a strangely appropriate way, the Dolch nerfs and how they are actualized in-game parallels the quick swap nerf. You can still sort of kind of do the things this weapon was notorious for in the past, but you're probably not going to be doing stuff like this anymore. At least, not on a consistent basis. Don't let the footage I'm showing fool you. The Dolch is primarily a secondary weapon. I'm forcing the issue for research's sake. Most people don't bring in the loadout I'm running with in 2-day Sal. The ease of use that entices people to make the Dolch their primary weapon is just not there anymore. Which is good, because I think as a sidearm, this thing does what it's supposed to. You have a modernized weapon that has all of these inconveniences that aren't worth mitigating. But if you're skilled enough to overcome these eccentricities, you have a powerful sidearm that heralds the coming future. A glimpse into the possibilities of what future hunts may look like. A deadly weapon with a short time to kill. An accurate weapon that can pressure an enemy into submission, but a clumsy weapon, an inevitability when attempting to progress past the current state of technological advancement. The last time I've been this genuinely pleased with a balance patch in Hunt Showdown was when they changed it so that way every recruit started with 150 health. Now, it may or may not come as a surprise to you, but there are still some people out there who are rather displeased with the Dolch nerf. But that's par for the course when it comes to any sort of change in Hunt Showdown. You don't make a game this unique in premise, with this many moving parts, and expect there not to be a lot of mechanical tension and community tension with said parts. And unfortunately, this isn't the only thing people argue about in Hunt Showdown. With the changes to the Dolch, there is only one thing left at the moment that spurs heated passions within the community: bounty camping. At some point, you're going to experience a standoff. This often manifests with two teams. One outside of a compound and one inside. If either team attempts to break the stalemate, they put themselves in a disadvantaged position that may snowball into the death of their entire team.
Oh, my slugs, I'm pretty sure. No, it's not, it's just the wall.
Oh, I got one.
Depending on who you ask, this is either the most tense or most boring part of Hunt Showdown. Compound siege gameplay is so stagnant and dead even that even the talking points used to argue the positions of either side can be flipped and have the same level of legitimacy. Why are you camping inside the compound? Why are you camping outside the compound? Why don't you take initiative and attempt a breach? I wouldn't expect you to abandon your fortified position in the same vein that you can't expect me to breach said position with little to no information. I haven't seen this much apprehension to openly aggressive actions since the fucking Cold War! Based on my tone, I think you can tell where I lie on this side of the debate, but I recognize that these standoffs are a part of what makes this game special. The devs want camping to be a viable strategy that can net you some success in the bayou, and I agree with that. It's just that the compound design in conjunction with the provided arsenal makes it easy for a team to lock down an area completely. Being in a fortified position is always an advantage no matter what, but you couple that with a shotgun or an gaunt officer and you can burst a person down before they even knew what hit them. But that's just the expected outcome when attempting to push into a fortified position. On the flip side of things, if you know an enemy team has rifles waiting outside for you and you only have shotguns and pistols, it would behoove you to keep your head down. Pushing on these individuals with short-ranged weapons is a surefire way of getting your head blown off. Sometimes you don't even want to be inside the compound to begin with. Maybe you just got pincered in by an enemy team and now they've set up to prevent you from running. Why should you initiate? Why do you need to commit to a suicidal play instead of them?
Mother's a whore. So are you.
But this standoff can occur by player choice even if both teams had shotguns or both teams had rifles. Now it's become a waiting game to see who will crack before the hour is up. And this is the problem with standoffs. The advantage either side has when set up is so great that the moment you try a decisive aggressive play, you'll often die. In an attempt to facilitate the conflict, you concede your advantage while your opponent maintains their own. This often results in your death. So now we're in this stagnant situation where only the best hunters really know how to maneuver around, and even then it's still a gamble. You're betting on the opposing team messing up in some way for you to take advantage of. When your win condition in a game like this is reliant on your enemy making a mistake that you can't reliably induce, something is wrong. Hunt Showdown is fun when everything is in transit, when the bounties have long since left the compounds of their guardian monsters and are now held by human hands.
Oh
Just
shit!
keep going, keep going.
God damn! That shot though.
A dangerous game that is one half race and one half tug of war. A sequence of events has just begun that can be resolved at any time through several emergent win conditions. You could slowly fall back to an extraction point as you output just enough pressure to zone your enemies away from contesting you. On the opposite side, you could skillfully weave into and out of cover, keeping pace with your opponents until you pressure them to death when they've nowhere else to run. You could dive for cover in the nearest compound and completely change the texture of the firefight. You could use your dark sight boost and turn the hunters into the hunted, outmaneuvering your opponents thanks to a more convenient divination technique. Sometimes you make it, sometimes you don't. This game is at its best when there is no clear sequence of events. So in keeping with that rhetoric, I believe it's important to avoid a consistently occurring sequence of events that lead to stagnant gameplay when optimally executed. If you want to fight at the compound, fight at the compound. But the best way to fight at every compound shouldn't always look like this. And the best way to counter this method of play shouldn't always look like this. The good news is that Desal, at least my initial impressions, tells me that the devs are starting to shift towards a design philosophy that makes it difficult to lock down an area in general. You've done it again, Crytek. You've forced me to rewrite the script once more because you're good at your jobs. Originally, I wanted to address the issues in compound sieges by mending the information gap. The idea went something like this. Whenever a hunter picked up a bounty token, everyone else in the server would be able to spot the bounty carrier with their dark sight, if and only if the carrier were still within range of the banishment site. The bounty carrier in turn still has dark sight boost, but as long as they are within range of the banishment site, their dark sight boost will never drain. I basically adapted how dark sight boost works in quick play and adjusted it to account for bounty tokens. I even gave the mechanic a cool name. I called it Dark Sight Affliction. But after exploring more of Desal and how the map design works in tandem with the mechanics already present in Hunt Showdown, I've come to the conclusion that a mechanic like Dark Sight Affliction is unnecessary. This entire portion of the video was born from the frustrations of the older maps, because those maps were designed with the rule of 2 in mind. The rule of 2 is the balancing philosophy that Crytek applies to Hunt Showdown. The option of trios are there, but the resources, rewards, and map design were balanced under the pretense that the majority of players would commonly play as duos. The devs were either very naive or severely underestimated how many inconveniences people were willing to endure as long as they were able to play with a third member in their group. Understanding Stillwater and Lost in Delta more thoroughly now, if people only ever played duos, then everything makes a little more sense. Even some of the more notorious compounds don't seem too bad when you operate under the assumption that only 2 people are holding the location down. Excluding any boss arena that occurs underground, those places are still ass. The design elements in Desal feel more pronounced because to me, they are very clearly designing the map to accommodate teams of 3, even if they don't say it outright. A lot of compounds have qualities that are always in ever-present danger if not taken note of. Big open doors and windows that people could easily snipe you through. Multiple entrances and levels forcing you to spread your resources thin throughout the compound. Large indoor architecture makes it cumbersome to rotate in response to a breach, and you may not make it in time to assist your allies. These elements are present in Stillwater and Lawson and are impactful if people are playing duos, but they don't matter when a third player enters the picture. You can lock down every boss arena in every compound with 3 guys and a bear trap. Now let's look at Stanley Coal Company. You have 3 levels to fight in. The main floor has something like 7 or more possible entry points. There's no wide open sightline to be cautious of, but there are so many windows and angles you could get sniped through if you aren't careful.
Oh my god! I don't know where it's coming from, dude!
The building interior is spacious enough that you can't easily rotate to assist your allies in the event of a breach. And there is so much cover and space for the outer teams to take advantage of during a siege that eventually they'll find an entry point to force a fight if they choose to. Having Desal now and then comparing it to Stillwater and Lawson really shows how much the map design team have learned from their previous map releases. So if we continue down this line of game design, then this complaint will naturally just fade into irrelevance. I know Crytek said they don't have any plans to remake the older maps, but I think an addition for more robust compound gameplay would be universally appreciated. If there is anything that you'd probably want to remake, it would definitely be Stillwater. The community, the design philosophy, and the balancing have outgrown the progenitor that's carried this game for years now. However, whatever decision Crytek makes in that regard, whether it's to remake the maps or forge onward with new ones, with the release of Desal, the nerfs to the Dolch, the additions of the hunting bow and throwing axe, all of it has left me optimistic for Hunt Showdown's future. And I've got a good feeling that there will be more to love from this game as time goes on. My first iteration of this script was far more intolerant of how other people played this game. The original Affliction idea had a mechanic that punished you if you camped for too long. If you stayed too close to the banishment site and didn't get out fast enough, the dark site affliction became more and more severe until it was 100% accurate of your location. I also remember calling for complete compound redesigns, weapon balances, system changes, among other things. And somewhere in that maddened crusade I envisioned in my head, it occurred to me that I was inadvertently removing everything else that made this game special. I came to realize the iteration in my head no longer looked like the game I fell in love with all those years ago. And I don't want that. It took me a while to recognize this, but I don't want an arena shooter, and I don't think Crytek does either. They don't want an arena with predictable and expected outcomes. They want you to inhabit a world with all of its beauty, its horrors, its flaws, and its accolades. They don't want an esports team. They want heroes, they want villains, they want diplomats, they want betrayers, they want gunslingers. They want you. They want the reflection of the bayou.
Fuck off, cunt! I give up!
They want you at your best.
Double kill? I killed all three.
They want you at your worst.
Oh, no! It hit the wall!
They want you with all of your flaws and with all of your accolades. And I hope that this humble hunter has in some way, shape, or form inspired an enlistment to the American Hunters Association. Welcome to the bayou, good hunter. Welcome to Hunt Showdown. I'll see you in the hunting grounds. With my previous video, there was an undercurrent of me consciously loving Lobotomy Corporation, but subconsciously I kinda hated it. This time, I consciously hate this game, but I know deep down that boy howdy do I love it. So unlike Lobocorp, I wholeheartedly recommend this to anyone and everyone that is looking for a refreshing take on a PvP shooter. As always, I advocate waiting for a sale, but if there was any game that warranted being bought at full price, it would be this one. On the topic of Lobocorp, the reception and support from everyone has been insane! I was fully prepared for that video to fade into obscurity with the occasional view here and there, but I was happily proven wrong. I never imagined I would create a video that would garner 10,000 views, so you have my eternal gratitude. Couple of updates with me in the channel, some small, some big. With the release of this video, I have officially launched my Patreon. You can find the link down below alongside my other socials. If you like what I do and want to support the creation of more videos like this one, then go ahead and check it out. But if all you ever do with my content is watch and subscribe to the channel, then you've done plenty already. Looking onward to the future, a lot of you have been asking about the Library of Ruina video. Of course, I have plans to make a Ruina video, but I haven't even launched the game yet. I want to do right by the game because it's an extension of my first successful video. So in honor of those efforts and that outpouring of support, I want to really take my time with this one. Temper your expectations and don't hold your breath. This is not going to be something that is coming out anytime soon. It is, however, something that I will be constantly researching and recording. I've repurposed my Twitch channel so that most, if not all, of the footage I stream on there will inevitably be used in the video. So if you'd like to join me in my journey to dissect whatever game I plan on making a video about, go ahead and follow the channel. I warn you now that I have given up any and all pretense of consistency on the Twitch channel in favor of making these videos. As for the next video, whatever it is, my hope is that it will be significantly shorter than either of my 2 releases. I'm going to impose a time limit if I have to. I cannot do another one of these hour-plus releases. At least not back-to-back. Anyway, that's all from me. I sincerely hope you've all enjoyed the video, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!